All right. Hi, everybody. I'm just going to give everybody a moment to check in. We still have people logging in, so we're just going to give it a few minutes. My name is Chelsea Fordiani, and I'm going to be your host today. So yeah, we'll just give it a few minutes, and we'll get started. All right, all right. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Molly Stone's first virtual cheese tasting event. I'm very, very excited. This is my first time doing this for Molly. So again, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Chelsea Fordiani. I am the cheese department manager at Molly Stone's at the Sausalito location, as well as the resident American Cheese Society. It's a lot to say. American Cheese Society Certified Cheese Professional. CCP is a lot easier to say though. So yeah. And today we're focusing on Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company. And today I decided to wear my snowflake hairpiece to represent the Point Reyes original blue, as it kind of looks like the blue veining there. So, something for the holidays and something for the cheese. Today, I am joined by Executive Chef and Culinary Director from Point Reyes, Jennifer Luttrell. Did I pronounce that right, Jen?
Yes, good
Wonderful.
job.
Fantastic. Yay. So welcome. Thank you for doing this with us. Now, hopefully, you guys have already purchased your cheese tasting kit, which you got online at mollystones.com. If you haven't, they will be available after the event, and I will go over on how you can do that. So stay tuned for that. Um, and yeah, yeah, let's get into this. So, Jen, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Point Reyes and all that good stuff?
Awesome. I wanted to ask you real quick, Chelsea, do you want to tell them kind of how this is going to roll with if they have questions and that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So, if you were as you have questions, go ahead and type them in the Q&A box. Annie, who does social media at Point Reyes, she is going to field them to us. So as you're writing them, she'll interject as we go. So if you think of something, if something pops up in your head, go ahead and just type it in that Q&A box, and we'll get to it.
Perfect. Thanks. All right. Well, so as Chelsea said, I am Jennifer Luttrell. I am the Executive Chef and Culinary Director here at Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company. And specifically, I run our Culinary Education Center, which is called The Fork. So at The Fork, we do a lot of normally public events, focused cheese tastings, trade events, farm dinners, farm brunches, farm tours, which of course we haven't been doing since March, which is why I'm having to recall what we used to do here when we could have guests on the farm. So things are of course a little bit different right now. We've switched to a lot of these virtual events. We're really excited to partner with Molly Stones and have kind of a local contingent for this event tonight. I have been working here since 2011, so going on 10 years. Oh my gosh, January 2011. And my husband is the head cheesemaker here, Kuba Hemmerling. So we have lived here on the farm since 2009. So we're really fortunate to basically live with these ladies and to work with the Giacomini family and with this company, and to have started here whenever it was quite small in comparison to where we are today. So as most of you know, Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company is located in far west Marin. We are right along Tomales Bay, located on Highway 1, just 2 miles north of the town of Point Reyes Station. Our environment is perfect for having dairy animals. They're able to graze on our green grasses when we have those, which our hills are turning green right now. We're very excited. And then in the times of the year when the grass is not green, we do harvest silage and we have that to feed back to them. So they are consistently fed nutrition from this 750 acre property year round, which is really, really good for their health. And it also adds to the flavor and the consistency of flavor in our cheeses, which is important. This farm was purchased in 1959 by Bob and Dean Giacomini. Bob comes from a long line of dairy farmers in the area. He grew up down at the base of Tomales Bay, which is now called the Giacomini Wetlands. It's purchased back by the National Park Service. And he grew up there helping his dad on his dairy farm, went away to Cal Poly, met his wife Dean, and then they moved here and purchased this farm in 1959. During their time living here on the farm, they raised 4 daughters. The daughters grew up, moved away from the farm. They didn't really have any interest in being a part of a dairy farm. I think Bob was always hoping maybe he'd get a son out of the deal, but 4 daughters later, no sons. So the girls all moved off the property, started their own careers, their own families. And this, the Giacomini dairy was a fluid milk dairy. So what that meant was that all of the cows were milked every day, a couple of times a day. All of the milk drove off of the farm at the end of each day. So in about 1999, a little bit before that, Bob called the girls back to the table and said, listen, your mom and I are getting tired. They were nearing 60. And he said, if you want us to keep the family farm, you're going to have to help us come up with a new plan here and get involved. So they started working on ideas and came up with the idea to diversify and to make cheese. They started with Original Blue. This was back in 1999, hired a cheesemaker who had a background in blue cheese. And Original Blue was launched in 1999. All 4 of the girls came back to the farm. They will say that they worked for cheese for about 2 or 3 years, getting things up and running here, but created the creamery, built the buildings for the creamery and the cheese storage, and started making blue cheese. Why blue cheese, you might wonder? Because there was no other blue cheese being made in California at that time. There were a lot of other really well-respected cheesemakers in the area. We had Bellwether Farms, Redwood Hill, Cowgirl Creamery. So they tapped into some of those resources and said, what should we make? And it was across the board, everyone said, blue cheese is what we need. So Original Blue was launched in 1999. And the original cheesemaker stayed with the company until 2009 when he retired. And at that point, they thought, okay, we want to launch some different cheeses because you guys probably know or can guess that not everybody loves blue cheese. So I don't understand why, but anyway, it was not a bad idea to think about making some cheeses that weren't blue if they wanted to diversify the product line, expand the product line. So in 2009, that is when they hired Kuba to come here. We were living in Indiana at the time, working on a dairy farm there outside of Indianapolis. And Kuba had no experience with blue cheese. He was like the opposite. He came with a lot of experience in Dutch cheese making style. And so he had to learn how to make Original Blue when he got here. And he immediately, once he kind of got that recipe dialed down and made a few improvements to it to create a more consistent, delicious cheese, he immediately started making Point Reyes Toma, and the product line expanded from there. Kuba is a guy who really likes to tinker. So R&D is in his blood. He loves to try new things. And I'll talk about that a little bit as we go through the actual tasting. But that's just a little bit of history here. Point Reyes Farmstead was started in 1999. The farm was purchased in 1959. Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company was started in 99. And about 2 years ago, we purchased an additional location in Petaluma, and we broke up our production and shipping and distribution between the two locations. So all of our shipping and distribution is now done out of our Petaluma location, and the majority of our cheese making is done there as well. So now we have the two locations, and so yeah, growing.
Nice. That's really awesome. I love that. I love everything behind the cheese maker. It's so interesting. And also just to have you guys in our backyard. I mean, we're so fortunate to have Point Reyes and so many different cheesemakers right here. Like literally I could throw a stone, because I'm in Sausalito. I'm out of my kitchen right now here in Sausalito. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's fantastic. And I do have to say, a number of years back, I had a chance to do the farm tour. And that was so cool. I highly recommend that to everybody. When it does start up again, please do that, because it is absolutely phenomenal. And I was actually really the silage. Actually, I was very interested in that because it was just so cool to see that what was in their feed. And so yeah, so you can go and you can meet the cows. We actually saw a calf born, which I guess happens every day. But yeah, that was really neat.
It's still very special to catch it, though, to actually get to
yeah, and to see them take its first steps like that, it was just, yeah, it was super cool. So again, that should definitely be on your list of things to do, as well as actually having an event or eating at the fork, which I guess is, I assume that's closed down right now because of what's going on. Yeah.
We're completely closed down for public right
now. Once things get back to normal, and they will get back to normal one day. Yeah, that's something that I want to do, and everybody else should too. So yeah, why don't we get into it then? Well, let's go through the box. Let's go through everybody's box, and we are of course going to start with the most important thing, which are the cheeses. So you've got 4 different cheeses that you're going to try today. You have the Point Reyes Toma, the Toma Provence, this is the Bay Blue, and this is the original blue. So those are your 4 cheeses there. And then you've got some other goodies with it too. You've got the Rustic Bakery Olive Oil and Cell Green Bites. Effie's Oat Cakes, which these pair really well with the Bay Blue. I really like that combination. You've got Marcona Almonds, Dalmatia Fig Spread, and this is a great condiment with many, many different cheeses. If you're kind of stuck on like some sort of jam that you want to, pair with cheese, this is a great go-to. It's a no-brainer. You just put it on the board and there you go, and everybody's happy. And we've got Columbus Prosciutto, because you got to have your charcuterie if you got your cheese. And we also included this little Formaticum cheese log. And what's great about this is it's got, if you open it up, it's got this little wheel here that helps you with all the flavors, because that can be, and it's just like wine. There are all these flavors and aromas in cheese too. So this kind of helps you out with that. And then it kind of gives you a little chart here with all the information that you can fill in there. But something else we did special today, which was also included in your kit, was this little Point Reyes cheese tasting sheet. So as you go along, fill out all the aromas and what you taste, the textures. And I always recommend that people write down whether they like the cheese or don't like the cheese, because that helps cheesemongers figure out what to recommend for you and not recommend for you. So it helps us figure out your palate. And then towards the end of the event, we're going to go over how to make a holiday cheese board. So we also included some tricks and tips in there as well. Awesome. So shall we start?
We can begin. I do want to say one thing. If If you have any questions that you need to send in, send those, Annie, they send them to all participants, right? That's when Annie will see them and can field them to us. So just one little detail there. All right, so we'll get started at building the board and talking about the cheeses as we go here. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is when you get a piece of cheese from Mollie Stone's and you get it home, what do you do with it before you eat it? So the best way we always want you to eat the cheese in its best moment, right? So we think about that as cheesemakers when we're thinking about what age do we want to release the cheese to you. So if a cheese is best at 12 weeks, we're going to release it a little early so that it is at 12 weeks when it gets to you. So we're thinking about those things. So when you get your cheese, we want you to set yourself up to have the cheese in its best light possible. So whenever you take your cheese out of the wrapper, usually it's plastic or foil, often with blue cheeses, we recommend that you take a knife, this is just a little paring knife, and just give it a quick scrape, just a superficial scrape here. You'll see there's a little, I mean, you can't see this on my piece, but when you're at home with your cheese, you can see there's a little kind of shimmer to it, and you're basically just taking that off because that piece of the cheese or that part of the cheese has been in contact with the wrapping material, and so the cheese can sometimes leach out some of that flavor, and you don't want your cheese to have a plasticky flavor. So that is what I recommend. I recommend it with all the cheeses, with the blues, any cheese that you get. So that would be my starting tip. So I am going to first talk to you about we'll do kind of the tasting of the cheeses, and I'm just gonna kind of arrange the cheeses on the board as I talk about each one. And then we'll go into the things from your kit, how to put those together with the cheeses to create a cheese board. So that's kind of my plan here. So first off, Toma. Toma is the cheese that was created right back in 2009. This was our first non-blue to ever start making. It is especially buttery up front and rich. It is really creamy, but it has this kind of grassy tang finish that is what I think kind of makes you want the next bite. Toma's tagline in the very beginning was anytime, any table, because this cheese is so versatile. It is really great for kids, but all the way up through foodies like us, because it has enough complexity that makes it interesting, but it's still a very basic, easy to eat cheese, very versatile. Toma is great to pair with, I sliced some of it here, and so I'm just gonna start placing it on the board. But Toma is really nice paired with a hoppy beer like Lagunitas. Hop Stupid is very good. Or we like it too with some of the Dry Creek wines. I have a Dry Creek Fumé Blanc poured over here that you can get at Mollie Stone's. That's really nice, crisp, white, that goes nicely kind of across the board, but especially with the Tomas. Toma is
the Fumé Blanc is actually one of my favorite whites. It's a really good too, and it goes with everything. So yeah, highly recommend.
Yeah, I like to, it's fun to put things together, several beverage pairings to go across the board. But if you're just looking for one thing, I love a sparkling wine, Gloria Ferrer Sonoma Brut or something like that is really good. Or the Dry Creek Chenin Blanc or Fumé Blanc are really nice too. So that is the Toma. Next in your kit, and of course, it's like a wine tasting. We start with the milder cheeses and we go up to the fuller flavors. The next one is the Toma Provence. So a few years ago, this was kind of a fun project for Cuba and me. Even though we work at the same place, we have very little overlap. But the sisters were talking about wanting to expand the Toma line and do some flavored Tomas. And Toma is such a good palette for enhancing the flavor. It's not a cheese where you would need to mask the flavor. So we wanted to be careful, and we wanted to choose flavors that complemented the buttery deliciousness that was already there with Toma, but enhanced it and just made it a little bit different than our original Toma. So Cuba and I worked together and we tried, I don't know how many different flavorings, probably 12 different things. And Cuba's always loved herbs de Provence, and I've never been a huge fan. And he was insistent, we have to try herbs de Provence. And like, okay, fine, we will. So we did herbs de Provence. We did rosemary, dried thyme, dill, red pepper flakes. We did things like za'atar and garam masala and curries. Like, I mean, we tried them all. But I was very pleasantly surprised at how delicious Toma Provence turned out. We ended up with a herbs de Provence that does not include lavender. Lavender can get a little bit soapy. And so we wanted to avoid that possibility. And so we found an herbs de Provence that did not include, that doesn't have lavender. So I love, love, love this cheese. This is actually my favorite of the flavored Toma line. We also have Toma truffle that has Italian black truffle paste added in. It's very delicious. And then we have Toma rashi, which is Toma blended with a Japanese 7-spice blend. It's got a little bit of warmth at the end, but also some nutty characteristics.
Yeah, we carry that one too. That one's a fun one.
It's really good. It's got some toasted nori in it and hemp seeds and sesame seeds. So it's really interesting, and it's not spicy hot like a habanero kind of in your face cheese. It's got this, like I always say, it's got warmth at the end. But Toma Provence is a great cooking cheese. It is so good, stirred into scrambled eggs, mashed potatoes, on a grilled cheese sandwich, with like some olive tapenade. I mean, so I love it because Toma is an excellent melting cheese and an excellent cooking cheese, and Toma Provence just goes ahead and adds the herbs into it for you. So
yeah,
really,
another thing that I like about the Toma Provence is the texture, because sometimes a lot of herbed cheeses can be really like grainy. And it's almost like you've got this mouthful of grass. And that's what I really love about the Toma Provence is the way you've done the herb blend. It blends really nicely with the cheese. So it's very, very balanced. So it's got this really beautiful herbaceous flavor, but you still taste that creaminess from the Toma. And that's another thing too, as you're going along with this tasting, make sure that you're giving it a sniff, you're noticing the texture, and just kind of savor it, just really, really getting, whatever, just sparks your brain and what gets, what is it that pops up into it, that really, really savor those flavors and aromas. That's what makes this so fun.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's always good to give your cheese a good smell before you take a bite of it, especially in a tasting kind of experience. So that is Toma Provence. Next, I'm going to move on to Bay Blue. So Bay Blue is the one that has a little bit more of a yellow paste to it. You've got it and Original Blue. Original Blue is more kind of milky white. So Bay Blue, we're kind of going backwards, like we're working ourselves up to our flagship cheese. So I told you that Kuba had to learn how to make blue cheese whenever he came here. And after that process, he said to me, I'm never going to make another blue cheese. Like it's not easy, apparently. And about 2 years later, he comes in with this wheel of cheese and cuts into it. And it's like, what's this? And he said, I've been playing with a new cheese. And it was a blue. And so anyway, like I said, he likes to tinker. He thought he'd never make another blue, but he just kind of can't keep himself from it. So Bay Blue is made in the style of a Stilton. So you're going to find that it has kind of a fudgy consistency to it. It is our only cheese that is made with animal rennet. So it's made with traditional animal rennet. The others are made with vegetarian microbial rennet. We liked the flavor and the umami of the traditional rennet in this cheese for what we were going after. But it has, like I said, a fudgier consistency, has a little natural sweetness to it, some nice mushroomy notes up front, but then it has kind of a salted caramel finish that makes it really, really delicious. We call this a gateway blue. For anyone who thinks they don't like blue, they should try Bay Blue because it is really, really delicious. And again, has that kind of sweetness that I think counters the pungency of the blue, which is what some people find off-putting, I think, about blue cheeses. I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Sorry, yeah, it totally is a gateway blue because I mean that's one thing I get quite often is from customers who are adverse to blue. I'm like, okay, well, let's see. Yeah, and I introduced the Bay Blue to them because I have to say, like when I first started as a cheesemonger, like I was blues were. I mean, as you grow, you know, your palate changes. But I have to say, when I tried the Bay Blue and it had just come out, you guys had just started making it. Oh my gosh, it like changed everything for me. It's absolutely fantastic. So, and also really excellent with honey and hazelnuts crushed
Yes,
on top. I really like that little sweet salty combination.
yes, yes. Also, as far as beverage pairings go with Bay Blue, it's really delicious with a tawny port. There are some beers that go really well with it, like more of a malt-centric beer. Lagunitas, Harry Eyeball, or Imperial Stout are really delicious with it. Also Scotch. I'm a bourbon girl. Bourbon.
Oh yeah, I love a
Bourbon.
good Manhattan.
Yes, oh, that's my drink.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so back to cheese for a second here. Original Blue, our flagship cheese, what started this company in 1999. Raw milk. This is our only raw milk cheese. So the other cheeses are made with pasteurized. So it has a really, really creamy consistency and a lot of peppery notes to it. It's very bold. It is a little bit goes a long way with Original Blue. And we allow it to it does not develop a rind. So I'll tell you how we do that. So the reason for that is we wanted it to be really easy to use for food service so that if a chef had it in their kitchen, they could use it all the way to the rind. Whereas Bay Blue has a natural rind that we allow to develop. So whenever Original Blue is in the cheese form and has been salted, and we punch it with these needles, and we do the same with Bay Blue because Penicillium roqueforti, which is the culture in these blue cheeses, needs oxygen in order to create that blue veining. So after we have punched the Original Blue, we put it in a vacuum sealed bag, but we allow a little bit of oxygen to stay present inside that bag. So has enough oxygen to create that blue veining, but not so much that it's going to dry out the rind and create, or dry out the outside and create a rind. So that's another difference between the Bay Blue and the Original Blue. Like I said, very bold, very peppery, really, really creamy. I love Original Blue in the kitchen because if you have just some hot pasta with some roasted butternut squash and some spinach and rosemary, or just kind of throwing something together, you can just cut off a little piece of this, crumble it into the pasta, and it just melts and kind of creates its own sauce. Like I said, a little bit goes a long way. So you can have a wedge of Original Blue and just kind of, take a little bit off every day to add into one of your meals. And
It's a fantastic texture. We also carry it in the crumbled form at the store. So we've made it even easier for you uh,
yes,
to just dump it into your pasta or on a salad. And but yeah, it adds a really great pop. It's a very distinct, wonderful pop in addition to its texture.
yes, yes, I agree. I have been at home making this winter so far. I've been making an arugula salad we have fig trees, and so I've been putting fresh figs and persimmons if we have them, and then usually some pistachios or almonds and a little bit of Original Blue and like a balsamic vinaigrette. I mean, it's just so good, so good.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of my thing lately, or a salad with leftover steak just cut on it and some.
There you go. That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Yeah, and it is a very good steak blue. If you're looking for a little blue to pop on top of your steak, go with the Original Blue. Yeah,
Yes,
you'll be right every time.
yes, absolutely. And as far as beverage pairings with Original Blue, you have to find something that has, can stand up to it, and that's not where the blue's not going to overpower the beverage, and the beverage not going to overpower the blue. So there are Zins and Pinots out there that pair really nicely with it. And also Cappuccino Stout from Lagunitas is a very good beer with it. And again, you could go sweet with it too. You could do a dessert wine or a port or that sort of thing with the Original Blue as well.
I like Sauterne. That's one of my favorites. I love how it smells like roses and that richness.
Yes, that would be delicious. So, Chelsea, do you want me to go into building the board right now, or do you have anything you want to say as we segue?
Well, no, I think we should go ahead and build the board. I mean, you're chock full of information. I love it. I'm kind of like standing here like, God, wow. So, I mean, you think, so much when you work with the cheese, just every day. But when you hear, from the maker, it really is so fascinating. I'm just like a little kid, just like, wow, that's so awesome. So yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. So thank you. I'm having a good time. I hope everybody else is.
True. And again, if any of you have questions, please just type them into the chat function, send them to all participants, and then Amy's gonna let us know whenever those are coming through. So I have all of the things that you guys got in your kit to work with, and then a few other items that you can easily find at your local Mollie Stones to add on as well, just kind of some more things you might have in your pantry. So what I like to do, and I mean, some of this might be just overly simple, but bear with me because I don't know what your knowledge levels are or anything like that. But
I think simple is always good. Well, because I mean, like, I get that question all the time. How do you build a board? And my answer is usually, I just do. And that is not a helpful answer at all to anybody. And I realize that. So,
well,
so
so I like to, it's nice to have a variety of cheeses and different consistencies and of course flavor profiles, which we have covered here with the cheeses you got in your kit from Mollie Stones and us. And then I like to put the accompaniments that, like if there's an accompaniment that is specific to Toma, I like to put it near the Toma. I like to make it easy for the person who's going to be eating it. So I'm kind of trying to like dumb it down for my guests. Not that I'm having guests right now, but you understand. So the Marcona almonds I would put next to the Toma. I think that almonds pair really nicely with Toma. So I am going to just sprinkle a few of these directly onto the board. You could also keep them in a bowl if you wanted to do that, depending on what kind of a tray you're using or the size of the board. Next, let's see, we have the prosciutto. So I took the prosciutto out and I kind of rolled it. It's not like a fancy rosette that you're going to see on on Instagram from a cheese board company or whatever. But I did roll them because they're easier to pick up and grab that way. Prosciutto can be really thin. Well, it is really thin. That's just part of what makes it prosciutto and what makes it so delicious. But it's easier to grab it if it's kind of rolled up. So I took it out of the package.
yeah, sometimes I'll take a slice and I'll just kind of like drop it down onto the board. So it's just kind of like a nice little pop. Because a lot of times also, yes, you see those Instagram boards and you're just like, oh my God. And, again, it's like cake fails, and again, it really isn't rocket science. Like you can make something really beautiful and you don't have to do all these little details and rosettes and whatnot. So yeah, it can be very simple and very beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, and once you make a few of them, you'll see that you can add things that you already have on hand, and it doesn't take a lot of effort. So anyway, I'm going to place these are kind of around the Toma Provence and the Toma because I like prosciutto with those. Although I also really love prosciutto with the original blue and bay blue, so it's kind of one that can go. It's kind of an accompaniment that's going to work anywhere on your board. So I'm just going to kind of tuck these in. Now, one thing that is important to me with a cheese board, and is certainly not important to all of those Instagram cheese boards that you see, I like for my guests or whoever is eating the cheese to have the space to cut the cheese off. So I like some of it I like to cut. I like for it to be diverse. So some of it's cut, so you just pick it up and eat it. Some of it is whole wedges. The blues are really easy to chunk off. They don't stay intact very well when you slice them like the Tomas do. So I want to leave a little space so that when I put a knife here to cut it, I've got some room up here on my board for that. I hope that makes sense. A lot of those boards that we're all seeing so much, they're beautiful. And most of the cheeses are cut, so you can just reach in and kind of take what you want. If you're leaving your wedges full, you've got to leave a little bit of real estate, a little runway there, so that people can actually cut into the cheese. Okay, so the fig jam, delicious across the board, as Chelsea was saying, but I'm going to put it over here next to the blues, just in between the blues. And big jam on a grilled cheese with any of these, delicious.
Yeah,
I
really
like
good.
jam,
Yeah,
grilled cheese with prosciutto.
yeah,
Um,
it definitely goes with everything.
yeah, so good. So good. So then the other items that you got, we've got, actually I'm moving big jam over here in front of the original blue because we have the Effie's oat cakes, which what are they not good with? I used to work at Cowgirl Creamery and I ate these all the time. I can't even get started because I'll eat all of them. They're so
Oh, I know. I think I just hope, hope,
yeah,
hope.
I know. They're so good.
That's what
They're good
happens.
with,
Yeah.
they're really great with any cheese, but I'm going to put them over here next to the Bay Blue. Chelsea was talking about how delicious that combo is, and they do have just enough sweetness, and it, but with the nuttiness too, where that is going to be delicious. And then I've got my rustic bakery olive oil and sal brie crackers. We love these. We put these in all of our gift boxes because they're so delicious, but they have a great flavor, but they're not too much flavor to overpower your cheeses. So I'm going to just kind of put some of these back here by the prosciutto.
Hey Jen,
Yeah.
we've got a great question. So as we're kind of working towards the blues on the board, can you talk a little bit about how raw milk changes the flavor and texture of cheese?
You know what? Can I punt that one to you, Chelsea?
Oh,
With your,
yeah, yes, you can. You totally
you're
can.
the CCP
Yeah.
here. I think you can explain it better than I can.
So when you're talking about raw milk, you're talking about milk that has not been pasteurized. So it essentially comes from the cow and then it gets turned into cheese. There's another term called thermalization, where it's raised just before pasteurization temp. And so it's technically it'd be considered raw, but it kind of like runs the gamut. And so when you're tasting, it's a very I want to say when you're tasting a raw cheese, there is a much deeper flavor to it, and it's one of those things where you some to really get it. If you have the same cheese, one that's pasteurized and one that's not, if you're lucky to find that and to try them both together, you will see raw milk cheeses almost have this like deeper grassiness to it. Texture wise, I'd have to say it depends on the cheese, and that's just one of those things. I can't say that I have noticed a huge difference in texture. It's more of this like deeper, richer flavor that you get. It's like the aromas and are just really, they really open up with the raw milk cheeses. But again, but what I've noticed over time is raw milk cheeses just there's a little bit of grassiness to it, this little grassy note that it really comes through in the raw milk cheeses.
I would echo that. I haven't ever noticed a huge, a discernible difference in the textures between the two, but definitely the flavor. If you tried a raw milk version of a cheese and a pasteurized version of cheese, there is definitely a different kind of depth of flavor, almost like sometimes it can be like a sharpness to it.
Yeah, I think like a really good example is Morbier, which is a very traditional French cheese, and it's made with vegetable ash, and legally it is supposed to be made with raw milk, and unfortunately you can't get that in the United States because, and I think because it's aged just so okay, so we're gonna go off on a little tangent here. Uh, so raw milk cheeses are illegal in the United States unless it has been aged 60 days or more. Um, so you're not going to find like a lot of you're not going to find real camembert or a real brie. And so Morbier is one of those cheeses, which is it's this really nice meaty wash rind cheese. Now I have one that's pasteurized at the store, and it's very delicious in its own right. It's very, very tasty. However, if you were to try it next to a real Morbier, you would be like, I don't want this pasteurized Morbier. I want this raw Morbier. And the reason for that is because the real Morbier, it has that deeper, richer flavor to it. It is, if there's sort of a step up in the meatiness, because Morbier is a very meaty cheese. So again, it's almost like turning up the volume on a cheese is what raw milk does.
That's a good way of putting it. So I'm sure that answered your question.
Hopefully, hopefully.
Yeah. I knew that you would have all the technical. Okay, so just a few other items that, like I said, you could purchase at Mollie Stone's. You might even have in your pantry. I like to add some fresh seasonal fruits to the board. So I have some persimmon and also some pomegranate seeds.
My favorites for this time of year. Totally.
Yes, so good. And also, you don't have to worry about them turning brown after you slice them, which is just a plus.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Like if you are going to put apple or pear on your cheese board, which you can totally do it right before you're going to serve the board, because if you do it beforehand, they are going to turn brown and that is not going to look nice.
Right. So, okay, so I have to make some space here. This is just like the trial and error of doing a cheese board, but no big deal. So I've got some olives here. These are just green pitted. They're not pitted olives. These are just green olives. But you could use any type of olive. I would just say avoid black olives, which have no flavor anyway.
I like Castelvetranos. Those are always a big hit. Yeah.
Very good. Yes, yeah. And people love them. So whenever we're able to.
I just got a little question here. I think from Carrie. Oh, I just saw it. I was asking about putting lemon on the pear or the apple, and you can, but I feel like it changes the flavor. I've done that before, and for me, there's just when you taste it, it's just kind of something like eh. But then also, as you know, with apple and pear, the texture also changes after you cut it, and it's been sitting for a while. So that's another thing too.
Yeah, I know. I am not opposed to adding lemon. But when you're putting it on a cheese board, you're pairing it with cheese, you have to think about, is your cheese going to taste good with lemon? Which most not. So I go for a different fruit that you don't have to worry about it browning. I like to make things simple. So, so I'm just going to find a spot for some of the persimmons here. I'm just going to kind of sandwich them in by the tomas. I'm always having to shift things around as I do this because I don't think about my space needs beforehand.
So Jen, as you're placing those, can you talk about the milk that we use for our cheeses, if all of it comes from us and how we use it?
Yes. So our milk, most of our milk, Annie, what's our percentage right now? Do you know what comes from us, from our cows?
I want to say about 30.
Really?
Or 40?
Okay.
Maybe?
So we used to use all of our milk for our cheese and then still sell some of it off to Clover. But as we have started expanding our cheese line, we have used up all of our milk. And there's only so many cows that we can have here on the farm and still be respectable stewards of the environment, quite honestly. I mean, we do have a methane digester here on the farm where we are able to convert that into a lot of electricity here. About half of our electric on the farm is from our methane digester, but still we're right next to a bay. We, want to be conscious of those sorts of things. So we also purchase some of our milk from other local dairies. And so the milk from our farm goes into the cheeses that are made here on the farm, which is Original Blue, and then our newest cheese, Quinta, which we're actually all sold out of right now, but it's a delicious soft ripened cheese that we've just started making. And then our cheeses in Petaluma are made from other local dairies who have farming practices that match ours. And what am I trying to say? Annie, what am I trying to say? Whose farming practices align with our belief system, I think that does make sense. So does that answer the question, Annie?
I think so. I think also talking about Farmstead and how Original Blue is Farmstead.
Oh, yes. So Farmstead also, thank you, Annie. Farmstead also means that that the cheese is made from milk that is from the farm. So from these cows that are on our farm. So we started out as Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company because all of our milk from this farm was going into Original Blue. And being Farmstead is really special because you are able to control everything, your cow's nutrition, the flavors that can come out in the cheese. And so we are still really, really proud of being Farmstead and having our own milk to use for Original Blue. We have a nutritionist who comes here to the farm every week and tweaks the cow's diet. And so the cow's diets. So anyway, I hope that that answers your question, but if not, just chat back in there and I'll get more specific. Okay, back to the cheese board here. I'm almost done with the cheese board. See?
Oh, that's great.
So
And then we can, yeah.
then you can eat your cheese.
Yes, the best part.
Pomegranate seeds here, I'm gonna just sprinkle around behind the bay blue. And
so another thing I like to do with pomegranates, if you don't have just the seeds or you don't want to take the time to pick all the seeds out, I will cut just chunks of pomegranate and set it on the board, and it makes a really beautiful presentation. And then people have something they can pick on their plate.
oh, that's nice. That sounds really pretty.
Yeah.
Lastly, crystallized ginger. So this might seem like a strange thing to add in, but I like to kind of have something where people go, oh, what's that going to go with? And invites them to try something new and kind of play around a little bit. So ginger is very, very good with Original Blue and Bay Blue. So here at the farm, whenever we do host events, when we were doing our Friday farm tour series, every attendee would get an ice cream sandwich that we made here in-house. And we would always have a seasonal offering, like a fresh fruit ice cream with house-made cookies. But always we would have Original Blue and honey ice cream with ginger snap cookies. And it is a really, really delicious combination. So I'm gonna put some of the crystallized ginger here around the Original Blue. And if you don't have crystallized ginger, get some ginger snap cookies. You could add something like that if you wanted to create a little bit of extra interest there.
I love that. That's wonderful. I love crystallized ginger and I love ginger snaps. Ginger is one of my favorite flavors. That's a great idea.
So good.
Yeah, I also like if you're because I think a lot of times we put a lot of sweeter things and fruits on our cheese trays, and like savory, it's usually like olives or charcuterie. Another thing that I discovered that's really cool to put on there are brined lupini beans. Which I think we sell some from Davina at our store, and also Brahmi. Those are both excellent, and they come in different flavors too. But even just like the plain sea salt ones, they've got a great texture. And again, it's something savory that's not an olive. Cornichons are also good too. I also like the cornichon. Yeah, a
I
little
agree.
bit. Yeah.
I think we have a few questions here, Chelsea, that I think will be great for you. These are about cheese storage. How long can you keep a cheese in your
Yeah, I
fridge?
saw that.
Can you address those?
I can totally address those.
Great.
So, because I get asked this question all the time, how long can I keep cheese in my fridge? So I give you a max of 2 weeks, but it also depends on the cheese. If we're looking at a fresher cheese, like a chev or a mozzarella, you do want to eat that right away because it hasn't been aged very long, and it is going to start developing a film after. And also depends on how cold your fridge is too. So if your fridge is on the colder side, your cheese will last a little longer. But the fresher cheeses, I would say a week max. Anything else, and like a semi-firm, a 2 weeks. Now, if it's like a Parmesan or an aged Gouda, it could last you longer than that. However, it's how you keep it. And so when you come to my counter, everything is wrapped in a cheese film plastic. And if I could, I would wrap everything in paper. However, all you would see would be a sea of paper chunks, and that does not look pretty because we do eat with our eyes. So I recommend when you get home, take all your cheese out of the plastic and wrap it in special cheese paper, which I do carry that from Acticum. I carry cheese bags and special cheese storage paper. If you don't have that, you can also use wax paper and put it in a Tupperware. The idea is cheese is a very finicky animal and it likes the right amount of air and a moderate temperature. So you don't want it to be too cold, but you don't want to be too warm. So you don't want to be storing the cheese like right at the back of your fridge, but you don't want to be storing it in your door. You kind of want it in the middle. But also remember, when you're wrapping it, you don't want it to be completely smothered, because the plastic will smother the cheese. But then if there's too much air, it's going to dry out. So it sounds it sounds like a lot, but really, if you do get special cheese paper, that is actually the best way to keep your cheese if you haven't eaten all of it before, which is really the ideal thing to do.
Definitely. It's like
And
we often say, buy it like you're buying fish. Go
right,
buy as much as you're going to eat in
yeah,
the next few days. I mean, I know we're shopping a little differently right now and buying a little, trying not to go to the store as much, but
right. Well, and then also remember, like, if you're coming to my counter and it's just you, or it's you and and just a couple people, or you and your spouse, or whatever, you can ask me to cut any of the cheeses, well, most of them, if they're in bulk, if they're sold by pound, I can cut them any size for you. So you're not wasting anything, because so that's a good thing. And then I also saw, if as far as eating cheese goes, what temperature should we eat it at? Room temperature. You want to eat your cheese at room temperature. So always bring your cheese out of the fridge an hour before you decide to consume it.
yes, absolutely. Um, let's see.
Cool.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, is there anything else anybody wants to know? Anybody?
One great one that I think is always good to answer, we had it a couple times, is some more cooking applications, especially now that we're all cooking more at home. Some of your favorites are, Chef Jen?
Oh gosh, there are so many. So let me just tell you what I told you about. I love original blue for so many reasons. Bay blue as well, great on a salad, great on a burger or steak. Um, I really love working with the tomas because they're so well. I'm kind of chuckling inside when I say like family friendly, because if all the kids did not eat cheese, mine won't even try cheese. So, we're like, it's paying for your college. You better learn to like it. But he will not eat cheese. But anyway, I do love cooking with the tomas because they melt so beautifully. Adding them to a grilled cheese or a panini, really traditional applications like macaroni and cheese. And they also crisp up really nicely into kind of a frico, like you would traditionally make with Parmesan cheese. And I just like snacking on them with salami, charcuterie. I like putting it on an egg, a little egg sandwich, that sort of thing.
Yeah, the tome is really excellent with eggs. Really, really excellent with.
It is very, very good. We have a lot of recipes on our website, and then we have a lot of recipe videos on our Facebook page and Instagram too, if you want more ideas there. The Toma Frico idea is really great as kind of a little cracker, if you will, to put a butternut squash puree or something like that on top of, or even to crumble onto a bowl of soup or onto a salad, just for a little different texture. Again, original blue is great melting cheese, so I love it in a hot pasta, on a steak. Bay blue pairs really nicely with mushrooms because it has a little bit of that kind of umami earthiness to it.
Mhm.
So, if you did beef with some sauteed mushrooms and like a sprinkle of bay blue would be really delicious. I hope that gives you a little bit of info. Some
Inspiring.
ideas. Okay. Do you have any additional kind of cooking things that you would do with these cheeses, Chelsea?
So I really liked using the toma for grilled cheese or mac and cheese, or even on its own, or even as a mixture. Like also doing like the fig jam grilled cheese with toma. That's always a fantastic combination. The sweet and salty together. And the bay blue, which is my favorite blue out of the line. That one is like, it's It's really good on a burger. I mean, I know the original blue has that creaminess to it, but there's something about the nuttiness of the Bay Blue that I really, really enjoy.
Bay Blue and Original Blue both are really nice too. If you want to just make a quick little snack or appetizer, stuffed inside of a pitted dried date, you can just cut the date in half and put it in there, wrap it with some prosciutto or not, or a fresh fig or dried figs used the same way, cut in half, pile a little cheese on top of it. Both of them, you can kind of, with your fingers almost form into a little disc almost that could go on top of, say, a fresh fig, and then wrapped with prosciutto with a toothpick. Really, really good.
If you want to get super fancy, you could do a poached pear, poached in red wine, and then some of the Bay Blue crumbled over that. A lot of times mascarpone is used, but I feel like the saltiness from the Bay Blue lends itself much better. That because the mascarpone I feel gets lost. So like the Bay Blue, it just adds that nice little to the wine poached pear.
Yeah, we have a recipe. It probably is on our website, right? Yeah, it is. Amy is nodding her head behind the camera there. But we do have a poached pear recipe that has a filling that is made with original blue, has some nuts in it. I think there are currants, and it's paired with an arugula salad, but you could easily just eat it on the side of like a pork entree. I mean, even just a pork chop or a pork loin type thing, or just have them on their own. But yeah, you just reminded me of that, Chelsea, because poached pears work really nicely with both of the blues.
Yeah, they do. I actually got one of my favorite questions that I get all the time is if cheese has some weird stuff on it, can you still eat it? And how do you know when it's bad? And can you eat the rinds? So if there's weird stuff on it, which I assume mold, yes, mold is weird to a lot of people. However, mold is naturally occurring on every cheese. It's just a matter of whether you want it on it or not. So if you do have some cheese sitting in your fridge and it happens to develop some spots that weren't there before, if they are white, blue, or green, they are fine. They are not going to harm you in any way. You can cut them off or you can eat them because it is the same strain as in blue cheese. If you see red, orange, pink, or black spots, that's no good. So go ahead and discard that. But it's another thing too is also I'd say that cheeses are a lot like mushrooms. You kind of have to know how they are supposed to be just because they go through different ages. A cheese, can be one way when it's young, but it can be a completely different way when it's been aged, and they're still delicious in their own right, even if they taste completely different from each other. So under normal circumstances, I would allow sampling at the store, but right now we're not doing that because of the situation. But like when things go back to normal, you can always sample at any cheese counter because you not only can you will find as you go along, as you're developing your palate, some cheeses you may prefer when they're younger, some you may prefer when they're older. Now, as far as knowing when cheese goes bad, again, it's like you have to kind of know, what your cheeses are like when they're aging. However, if you smell a very strong scent of ammonia, it has likely met its maker. Also, if it's extremely bitter, it's gone the way of the dodo. So go ahead and discard it. As far as rind consumption goes, if the rind is edible, that like if it's a bloomy rind, like a brie, uh, people are either rind eaters or non-rind eaters. People either like it or they don't. That is up to you. It doesn't make you a bad person if you don't like rind. There are lots of people out there who don't like rind, and that's okay. There are natural rinds out there that you could certainly consume and it would be fine, but it probably wouldn't taste very good. So that's just another thing to ask a cheesemonger when you are picking out cheeses. Is this a rind that you would recommend eating? Because there are some rinds that look kind of funky, but they're really, really delicious. And then when we're getting into like wax rinds and stuff like that, no, you do not want to eat a waxed rind.
Right, I know. I love eating, the rinds on softer ripened cheeses as a
Yeah.
rule, but even our Bay Blue, the rind is delicious and it has a lot of flavor. And you'll also get different flavors from the tip of the cheese, which is kind of the youngest part of the cheese, to the
Mhm.
outside. So when you get closer to the rind, especially on Bay Blue, you're going to notice a difference in the flavor. So I would encourage you to pay attention there. I
And
know
a
we're
different
doing.
texture too. It's a really nice chewy texture when you get to the rind of the Bay Blue. I like that.
Mhm, definitely. Does anyone have any other questions? I know we're getting close, or we're at our.
Yeah, we are. We are out there. But yeah, I don't see any other questions.
Annie, do you see any?
Jen, we actually have one in the chat function for you. So we have a customer who's wondering about our useful events support.
Oh,
And even though we're not open right now, if there's anything that we offer on virtual platform.
yes, yes. Okay, so normally at the fork, we would be having events, monthly farm dinner, a quarterly farm brunch, plus many different opportunities throughout the week, Friday farm tours and private and corporate events and things like that. Right now, we are doing a lot of virtual tastings. They've been great for corporate team building experiences. So the companies that we've worked with will buy a specific cheese gift box for their team, send it out wherever their team members are, and then we have a scheduled, Zoom with them. And they're much more interactive typically because teams are, it's a team building thing. It's a way for their group to be together when they can't be together. And so those have been very popular. We can do those if that's something you want to set up with your family. We can do those. We're also can check our website. But in our gift packs, like you go to shop and gift packs, you'll see that there are some virtual experiences that you can purchase there. So it's basically that you're purchasing a gift box that will come to your house, and with it comes a Zoom link. We don't charge anything extra for the virtual experience that goes with that particular gift box, but it's really fun. I'm doing one on the 23rd. I think we're already done selling that one. And then we have one on the 30th, which I think we're also done with because shipping, you have to, for the holidays, the shipping is running a little bit differently, but we'll continue to do those. They're really, really popular, and it's a fun way for us to stay connected with our guests.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was so much
Thank you.
fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, thank you. Yay. Then thank you for being our first virtual tasting too. It was absolutely perfect. We're absolutely honored to have you.
Thank you.
So,
I was just saying thanks to everyone who joined us. We appreciate it, and it's fun to be here with you and get to talk about one of our favorite things.
cheese.
Yes, cheese.
I hope everybody enjoyed our tasting today. And if you didn't get to taste along with us with the Mollie Stone's cheese kit, the Point Reyes themed Mollie Stone's cheese kit, you can still purchase that online. All you have to do is go to catering.molliestones.com. And even if you just go to molliestones.com and go to catering, you'll see a section that says virtual events. Just click on virtual events, and then you'll see the virtual Point Reyes cheese tasting event, and it will give you the option to purchase a kit. And you can go ahead and pay for that online, and then go ahead and choose the store of your choice to pick it up at. So those are going to be available through at least through I think the first week of January. We may keep them on longer than that. Also, another special treat for you is starting tomorrow through the first week of January, we will have all the Point Reyes cheeses that we carry on promotional ad. So that includes all the cheeses we tasted today, the Toma Provence, the original blue, and the Bay Blue, in addition to the Toma Rashi, the Toma Truffle, and I think, is that it? I think
you have Gouda? Do you carry our Gouda?
No, we don't carry your Gouda, and I want to. Favorite. The Gouda, your aged Gouda is phenomenal. That's where my heart lies, and I think because it was such a smaller production that this moment we can't get our hands on it. But I will keep asking for it. I'm not going to stop that. I really think it is the best aged Gouda. that I've ever tried. And I love aged Gouda. I've tried a whole bunch of aged Goudas. But that one, there's something about it that's the flavor and the texture. It's golden. So that one, that one's my favorite. But yeah, please check in with the with any of the Mollie Stones. We, again, like I said, starting tomorrow through the first week of January, we're going to have all the Point Reyes cheeses on ad. And then mark your calendars, because we're planning on doing this every month, is having a virtual cheese tasting. Next month, we are going to feature Nicasio Valley Cheese Company. The date is going to be January 21st. So again, mark your calendars. But again, we'll be, plugging this on social media and sending out emails and all that. But yeah, thank you so much. I'm so glad everybody joined us, and on our first virtual cheese event, I had a good time. So thank you. And
Thank
also,
you.
I want to thank our IT director, Tim, who you cannot see, who's the man behind the computer, making sure that all of the technical stuff works. So I'm just going to give Tim a shout out too. So thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
You.